listening to ABC Radio and Help Me I'm a Comedian. This is a show where we ask a comic to come in and explain something that they struggled with, something that was difficult in their life and how they got through it, and a psychologist helps to shine some light on that subject. You're joined now by psychologist Dr. Rachel Hannam and comedian Aaron Gocs. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and hello, Rachel.
Hi.
Can we start, Aaron, with your story of getting into a relationship first? Who was your former partner and how did you guys meet?
Well, it's a while back now. I'm getting on a bit, but...
You must have a good moisturiser.
Yeah. So it was the classic lovely romance of online dating. This was the days of phone apps. This was actually logging in on a keyboard and
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is
the really old
website, not an app.
Yeah, this was like dial up. If Auntie Joan called, you got disconnected.
Yeah. And you didn't get phone notifications. You had to log in and you got so excited to see those extra little marks by your profile.
Yeah, exactly. It was a simpler time.
Yeah. Okay, so you set up an online profile and who did you meet?
The wrong person.
Tell us about that initial relationship, because it didn't last, but I thought maybe we could spend some time talking about the relationship that you got into first.
Looking back in hindsight, because I do struggle with some abilities of handling life and things, and looking back, I probably should have seen the signs, but I did meet a partner from overseas, and we ended up doing the partner immigration, and I know people can say, oh, how did you not see this? But yeah, unfortunately.
But you can join a very large club there with people who
can
look back and,
Yeah, it's not easy, but you have to sort of face up to it later on. And some family and friends were a bit concerned, but I was like, no, I'm in love, let me do this. It's hard, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are hardwired to bond, and when we do, we don't always see clearly what we're
I'd had
getting.
a couple of years after, high school, so it was early 20s, where I sort of was a bit of a recluse, kept to myself and at home and that, and then I was went through sort of a really tough loneliness, depression, and I freaked out. I was like, I need to meet someone. So I probably in hindsight rushed it a bit, and a byproduct of that is sort of accepting anyone who you think it seems like love, It's quite difficult, but I had to face up to it, yeah.
You do eventually, don't you? And that's such a common story of feeling loneliness and not wanting to continue to feel that, feeling alone and not wanting to be alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people who 100% genuinely mean the best for you, you just see them as you don't want me to be in love. They're saying they can see the warning sign.
Why are you raining on my parade?
Yeah. And because I was this I'm trying to find the right words, but I guess young... You think you know it all, moralistic, and I was like,
you were naive.
You're just racist. You don't like other races, Mum. And it's nothing to do with that, but that's how the young person's brain kind of sees things.
And I would like to say at this point that the word naive in Latin means teachable.
You mentioned to the producer that you'd been diagnosed with Asperger's, and you said sometimes you don't get life. That was a phrase you used. Can you just tell us about you as a person and why you think you might have been lonely at that time?
Yeah, well... So in high school, or all throughout school, I was a bit of a naughty student. I got in a bit of mischief and nothing terrible. I wasn't sort of no violence or anything like that. But yeah, getting kicked out of class. So anyway, so I did go to a few schools and didn't have close connections with friends. It was more and it can be a bit of a blur, high school, because I was going to all these different schools. So you hear about parties, the weekend comes. So I'd be hanging out, but you don't have those close connections. Then when school finishes, people go out into the real world, and it's it can be quite hard, because when you're young, those, like I said, parties, or even younger, it's more of a done thing to say, do you want to hang out? And adults, even late teenagers, 18, 19, don't really do that as such. They might be, let's go to the pub, let's whatever.
So many people I've met find that transition out of high school a really lonely time and a difficult time.
Yeah. And on top of that, I have a quite addictive personality. So I was just thinking back, it's kind of embarrassing, but collecting. I'm not making, if there's any collectors out there, I'm not saying anything about you, but me personally, I was it was either DVDs and vinyl records. Before they were cool too. Like they're cool now. I was doing it back then. But, and real obsession. Like I was into bands and music, and I'd like follow bands around on their tour. Like not all the time, but probably shouldn't do it at all. I remember this one band came over from America, and I'd like drove each day to their next show, and it was just that was how my sort of brain was wired, was just a sort of quite addictive personality. So that was kind of it's hard when you're intense like that, like, you know. And
Rachel, could I get you to comment on that personality type and that how that might affect you when it comes to choosing a partner? You feel lonely, you've got an addictive personality. Can that lead to you perhaps making the wrong decision when it comes to choosing a partner?
I'm interested to ask you, Aaron, when did you get a diagnosis of Asperger's, and at what age?
Yeah, I was quite young in primary school.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know much about it now, but they've said they're distancing from that term. But
I do.
And as I said, being younger, different beliefs, moralistic. I went through the like, no, you can't put a label on me sort of years. And obviously, most of my adulthood, I've realised that, yes, I do.
Has it been helpful in the end to have that framework through which to understand yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Because early on, it was like, no, everyone else is wrong. And now I'm a lot more humble where I'm like trying to take everything as it comes. Like maybe listen to people and try and take advice. And I regret that being sort of young and thinking I knew it all.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people could probably
relate to that.
Relate to that. Yeah, like
because you want autonomy, you want your own freedom and choice when you're young. That's very healthy developmentally. So you don't want people to tell you who you are and what to do. That's pretty normal. But what I do know about ASD is that most people on the spectrum have quite an obsessional temperament. They can get quite obsessed with certain things, and compulsive behaviours go with the obsessional mindset, and that can apply to substances, it can apply to objects, like you said, collecting records, and it can apply to a person. So you meet a person and then you get a bit obsessed with them. I wonder if that's what happened when you met your ex-partner.
Oh, absolutely. And like, even though I've had a lot of bumps in life, I am quite thankful that I didn't touch like substances, because it could have got out of hand with the way I am. So that's what kept me away from. I just channeled it into other crazy things. Like,
most CEOs have obsessional personalities, by the way. So, you know, it comes with some success.
It can be good, and it came with comedic success perhaps for you later.
Yeah, well, it was quite a long journey, as it is for many people. But that was that one thing that was great about people being into my comedy was, for so long, feeling, I don't want to use the wrong words, but I guess like odd, weird.
No, I use those words sometimes too.
Yeah, I didn't want to say like freak or what, you know, like, but as outsider, I guess, is a good one, like not fitting into society, and just, but now, and then when people enjoyed it, it's like, oh, I can use this in a positive way, like to be.
I feel like there's very few places for a really lateral-brained person growing up, because school is so conformist and uniforms, work is so conformist. So you can just feel like, oh, this world's not meant for me, until you find a really quirky job where you can use that left-field brain like other people can't.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. And schools can be overwhelming places for neurodivergent people. Did you find school a bit overwhelming at times?
Yeah, I did. And it can be really hard to explain, because I am interested in things. It sounds a weird thing. I like things.
Yeah.
No, but I am.
You're a curious person.
I like the subject, but I couldn't apply myself in school. It was hard to explain. Like,
well, you probably were restless, high energy, sensitive, anxious, those kind of things.
Yeah, and just wanting to not do the right thing. That's where I was saying, like, the mischief. It wasn't like, wasn't like fights, or it wasn't. Yeah, it was probably just trying to be a smart aleck in class and class clown, as they say.
Which is, you know, you just trying to get your needs met. I guess you wanted some attention and wanted to be understood. It
was like an Aussie Bart Simpson, you know. Had no slingshot there. You know?
Everybody likes Bart. So.
Yeah.
You do mention The Simpsons a lot on the internet. So.
Yeah, it's a big part of many people my age's life, you know, like obsession. It was like every day... Put it on TV.
It's such a clever show.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So I think we'll come back to some of those themes a bit later. Let's just talk about the relationship, though, before we get there. So you mentioned that you should have seen some warning signs. Can you point out what some of those warning signs are?
Yeah, well, like I was saying, she was from overseas, and we met and had a few dates, and she was the one saying about because she had to go back to her original country. So she was saying about suggesting like, oh, we should do this marriage. I forget the exact, visa or and I guess I saw it as like, yeah, this is a good way to be together. But most people would say if someone's suggesting that they might have ulterior motive. But
I see that as wishful thinking.
Yeah,
you hope you believe that you can make it work,
and you do, because you do hear about those like quick meetings that go great and stuff. So you don't know, and you tell yourself like, why not me? And that's the thing, like.
Yeah.
So those like warning signs like that friends and family see, you don't want to tell yourself like, oh, why would I have an actual relationship? I'm a loser sort of thing, where you don't want to tell yourself that. It's
denial
hard.
is very powerful, and we've all done it.
How much of conflict did that create between you and your family? Was it kept quite light, or did it really put some gap between you and some people?
Yeah, it was really difficult time, and they were like, not disown me, but they were like, well, you really shouldn't be doing this, and then that caused a lot of friction, and then a lot of friction, and it was tough.
Understandable. People were probably worried about you.
Yeah, well, there's so many emotions. Like they just want the best for me, and I'm also like, I just want to be happy. I just want to, like I've been lonely for a few years. And
so you were crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, which so many people have done when they start a relationship.
Yeah.
But
and
you
I guess,
learn it doesn't work that way.
I guess like scam is an intense word, but any of these scams people fall for are kind of based in hope,
Exactly.
Even from the sort of the message that appears. You have one, send the Nigerian prince, and that's it. Yeah. And that's actually, it's hard these days. Like, once upon a time I would have been smug about those things, and now I'm like laughing. They're like, hey, that's me. That hurts. Like, yeah.
Well, you're right. It's based on hope and a real yearning for something better than what you've got. And there's no shame in wishful thinking and, hoping for something better, because it's the opposite of cynicism. The other extreme is you're just cynical and think that, nothing good's ever going to happen and you don't trust anybody. So it's a bit of a tricky situation. Trust or don't trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they had been telling you that the relationship might not work out, or they were suspicious of it, did that make it harder for you to end the relationship because you didn't want for them to be proven right?
There's a tiny bit of that, I think, but it was mostly just like me really wanting it to work out, and I guess lacking a lot of confidence was like anytime something bad would happen, there was like a warning sign. It was kind of inside of me, something saying like, that's because or you can't do better anyway, just accept it, sort of thing. That's one of the bad things about getting such low confidence, is it puts you in bad decisions when your confidence is so low. Yeah,
that's worth talking about, Rachel, because you don't feel like you deserve very much in life, so you settle in every area of your life. Can you just tell us about the price you can pay for low confidence?
Yeah, well, low confidence is not having faith in yourself, confidence with faith. And when you don't have that self-belief and that self-respect, you generally feel crappy. That's a psychological, technical term. And I call it wearing bad coloured glasses. When we're feeling kind of bad, the world looks bad. We look bad to ourselves, and it's very easy to make non-discerning decisions from that place, wearing those bad coloured glasses, and you kind of put up with things that you might not put up with if you were feeling better, more confident, and you tell yourself you don't deserve better. So, people do put up with a lot when they can't manage those boundaries. You need self-confidence to have boundaries, because you need to have a deep belief that you can say no and that you deserve, better treatment, and that certain things are just unacceptable to you. That's what boundaries are. When you've got low confidence, that's a real struggle.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you become confident by telling yourself positive things or by achieving good things? What's the path to confidence?
Well, from a cognitive behaviour perspective, we have to work on, our thinking style, and learning some different, ways of thinking, restructuring our thinking is one part of it. But we only really build confidence or self-efficacy by taking action in the end. So you do something, you set a boundary, you say no, you try something new, and then you get this kind of feedback loop in yourself, which is, oh, I did that thing and it's okay. Or it worked, or nothing bad happened, So you take off the bad coloured glasses in the end, you kind of realise, oh, I can do things, I can say no, I can be brave, and over time we build that self-efficacy through taking action.
When did confidence come into your life, Aaron? Was it when you succeeded as a comedian, or can you remember the moment where you started to feel better about yourself?
I'm never 100%.
It's a lifelong project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good to find a good balance too. You don't want to be this little walking around smug, like everything I do is perfect.
That's right, overconfident.
You don't want to hate yourself, but you also don't want to love yourself. Oh, that's not a good term, sorry. You should love yourself, but not smug, yeah. Yes. So,
you've got to have some humility to balance it out, don't you?
But like I was saying before, it absolutely was felt, I can use this, which is a good thing, because I had felt for a long time uselessness. Yeah. I don't know, just because my dad's very handy and I was never like that, with tools and things. And not that but that can be as a man, as a male growing up, you sort of certain expectation.
Oh, yeah. Everybody usually compares themselves to their same-sex parent.
Yeah.
It's
automatic.
And I've brought this up before. Sometimes creative people get told, why can't you be more organised? But organised people never get told, why can't you be more creative?
That's true.
And so there's a skill that you have and that some people have, but it just doesn't get appreciated when it comes to plumbing and organising your diary, all those practical areas of life, but it does have a place. And it sounds like you became confident when you found your niche in life. But I just want to get back to the relationship and just talk to you about that side of your life. So it did break down eventually, but did you have children before then? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely was... It is quite difficult to talk about because it's having to face up to some truths and things and
How old are your kids now?
14 and 12. So it was a fair while ago this all happened, but
how old were they when you separated?
I don't have exact ages, but yeah, it's like about 10 years ago now. So yeah, and I've had the I have the girls full time, so my parents help a lot with that. A lot. They've been great, yeah, because I wouldn't be able to do it myself. But yeah, it's really hard. But yeah, we just tried to give the girls the best life they can, and obviously they can tell it's like a single parent situation. And
yeah, can you tell us more about trying to give them the best life? What's important for you that they take on?
Well, I've actually had to learn a lot, and there is some things that I've didn't do great, but I wouldn't say regret. So growing up, and what can often happen with sort of broken families is one side trying to overcompensate. So I always wanted to make sure they're having fun, which isn't a bad thing, but probably should have done a bit more kind of sit down looking at schoolwork and things with them. But it was always the weekend would come and we had the theme park passes. We were always going to the, it wasn't non-stop fun, but I probably, and that's not a bad thing, but reflecting, maybe overdid it, trying to always get them out and about, having fun and being active and stuff.
Giving them good memories.
Yeah, absolutely.
That must be a challenge, Rachel, isn't it, when you've got one parent who has to sort of embody two personalities, be the good cop and bad cop, and are there any particular challenges for single parents in providing that kind of broad parenting?
Yeah, because I guess there's sort of some archetypal things mothers give their kids and that fathers give their kids. And if you're a single parent full time, you've got to try and do the sort of the good mother role and the good father role, and provide the nurturance, the structure, the container for them to, figure out who they are. But you've also got to do the sort of stereotypical father thing and try and set down parameters and structures for them so they can learn, right from wrong. And it's hard. I always say to my clients who are parents, you cannot get it right. You will fail as a parent. And I still think that one of the most important skills as a parent is to have repair skills. So to be able to say sorry to your kids if you've overreacted, or if you've missed something important, that they were feeling you didn't realise at the time. To be able to go back and reattach to your children there's other very important things about parenting, but I think that's really the key because we're so hardwired for bonding and connection.
Yeah, and I think people can sometimes get locked in on what they want of their child and sort of goals and obviously you want them to do well and as best they can, but they're also going to have bumps along the way,
You can't be too rigid, but you also don't want chaos. So the river of well-being is somewhere in between the banks of rigidity and chaos.
Yeah. You're listening to ABC Radio Help Me I'm a Comedian with psychologist Dr. Rachel Hannam and comedian Aaron Gocs talking to us about some of the challenges of single parenting at this point in the story. You've talked about, perhaps you had a bit too much fun and you struggled with some of the disciplinarian side of things. If you could reflect on the hardest part of being a single dad, is that it, or is anything else you could share about what's tough about it?
The obvious thing would be the opposite gender, I guess, being a dad with two daughters. Like the weekend would come and there'd be something you got your eye on and then it's like, can we do it all together? And I don't think I overly did it, like taking them along to the footy, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I overdid it, but I probably should have thought a bit more about what they would like as well. But like I said, I always did try to make sure they were enjoying themselves as well. And also, like my parents have been great. Because I had the kids young and it was very rushed, and my parenting skills weren't good at all. Not that you can't learn. Like I was trying to, look at some recipes and try and improve my chores around the house and things. So always trying to improve. And another hard thing too was trying to get the comedy stuff to kick off as well. Yeah. So juggling this home life with, and then as you know, Ashwin, like being in scenes and things, you're like, there's a kind of like a social element and just the nature of gigs too, being sort of in pubs and late. And my parents didn't quite get it. They thought I was just going along hanging out at pubs. I'm like, no, they're just in there. Like, I would do them if they were 2 p.m. in a park, but they're just in pubs at night. That's how it is.
If you're, different gender to your child, you're getting a bit older, you're having trouble keeping up, is there any tips you can give us to sort of stay connected with your children, or do we just accept that we're different people and just embrace that?
I mean, I guess if you're a female, you can't understand the male experience and vice versa. But, there's a lot more to having a warm, close bond with someone than your gender experience. Single dads can do a great job with their daughters if their kids feel like, oh, Dad's there for me, he loves me, he encourages me, he believes in me. That's still the primary thing, whether you're the mum or the dad. I've got 2 daughters and a son, and I can't really understand my son's experience as a teenage boy because I was never a teenage boy. But I actually relate to him more than my daughters because they're actually personality-wise, they're really different to me. And my son actually has a similar personality to me. So that's interesting too, that personality can sometimes trump gender in terms of relating and connecting.
What I could have done better was, they unfortunately don't see me as an authoritative figure as such. Because I was quite easy and a bit of a walkover,
and I wanted to just add this simple theory of parenting, which also applies to being a boss in a workplace, is that there's a continuum from laissez-faire, which is kind of do whatever you want, right through to the other end, which is authoritarian, which is my way or the highway. And in the middle, we have authoritative, is what it's called. And authoritative is where there's some mutuality. You listen to the other person, but you actually have, as a parent, legitimate authority. You've been alive longer.
So you just mentioned at the start of this interview that you struggled as a kid to be confident because you hadn't found a place for your talents and your niche. And when you're in this conversation, when you set up an ideal version of a parent and you don't meet that standard in your head, like that feels like you're returning to that, lack of confidence, because you're not going to feel confident if you set up this perfect picture that you've got to meet. So it feels like you're repeating that confidence theme again as an adult, would you say?
Yeah, I do feel And a lot of these images are set up as society things too of success or who we want to be or what we should be. And our family have expectations as well. And even ourselves of the person we want to be. And so, yeah, it can be disappointing when you're not who you thought you should be or people expect you to be as well.
Can you say anything about challenging some of those expectations and images we set up for ourselves in our head, Rachel?
I mean, what I think we're talking about here is the difference between fantasy and reality. This is an imagination machine in here between our ears. And so you're a very imaginative person, I imagine, Aaron. And so the imagination creates movies and pictures and images of what we want and what we want the future to look like. And it's a beautiful fantasy. It's a beautiful dream. But it's dangerous too because it butts up against the reality, which is that we're all fallible, limited, imperfect creatures with blind spots and we don't know what we don't know. And it's a lifelong learning kind of journey that we're all on. And so then that's when the humility comes in. Learning to be discerning, being overly trusting, not trusting anyone, being overly talkative, not talking enough. Like there's so many things in life where we have to kind of find that balance. And it's all an experiment, really. I want to let everyone off the hook who's listening. If you're beating up on yourself right now, life is difficult and complicated. And, once you really start to see that, the fantasies start to evaporate. But that's painful. There's some grief in having to let go of the old dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And one of the hard things is we see things that is like we're jealous. Jealousy is like wanting to be someone or I don't know if that's the right word. Or, you're like, I want to get in that position at that job. Or us as comedians, like, I want to have that big special or the sitcom or the movie or whatever.
But then other people are probably jealous of you too, right? So...
And you don't know like the hard work they put in to get to that point.
Yeah, it's all that comparison. They say comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that was bad for me. That was a bad one. And I always battling it, but I've gotten over it mostly. But there's always that, like, why can't I do what they do? And why do they, there's a lot of that toxic views. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much good in the arts, all that creativity, and you feel accomplished, but the comparing yourself to other people poisons the whole thing. So it's like you have to be quite skilled to be a comedian, but not damage yourself at the same time.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
In psychology, we call it reflective practice, where you look back and you go, what would I have done differently? And what have I learned from that for the future? But you try not to compare yourself to others.
Yeah.
That's a good alternative, is just reflecting to learn.
I want to wrap up on a question that as you hit 40 and you get a bit older, you probably question, am I doing the right thing in my life? Should I be doing comedy? Should I be going and living in the desert? Should I be a monk? Should I get a 9-to-5 job?
Off the grid.
Yeah, exactly. Are you having some of those questions running through your head? Are you questioning some of the bigger parts of your life at the moment?
Oh, only every single day.
Yeah.
No, it is. In a serious note, self-doubt is a big thing, and questioning, and the realities of life is a huge thing. And like I said, I love it. I love to see people happy, and I hate that it comes down to like numbers and stuff. But the reality of life is, you do have to get a certain amount. Like, if there wasn't responsibility of being a dad and bills to pay, I have this belief that I could be like a road warrior, just going town to town, and if 2 people come, so be it. I'm doing the show to you.
Yes.
But the reality is, you can't do that. I would go to like Birdsville, wherever, Burke.
Is that the ideal you, just a wandering comedian?
Yeah, I think so. I'm saying that now. I'd probably hate it after a week, but I do enjoy traveling and little things that people might find boring, just little differences of towns. And I like finding out about when you go to a town, the local rival and all these, like, where's the local good pie and stuff.
Rachel Hannam is your psychologist that you've been hearing from, and comedian Aaron Gocs. I'm Ashwin Segkar, and the show is called Help Me, I'm a Comedian. Thanks to you both for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.